Welcome back, focused learners, to another deep dive on the explainer. Today we are unpacking something truly mind-bending. We're looking at a text that claims to be the posthumous revelations of Emanuel Swedenborg, one of the 18th century's most brilliant scientists, philosophers, and Christian theologians. Specifically, we're zeroing in on a pivotal section, Chapter 3, where Swedenborg essentially takes his own life's work, tears it down, and completely reconstructs it from the other side. Let's just jump right in. So I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine being a master scholar. You spend your entire earthly life intensely studying theology, you write volumes of work, and you build this massive, rock-solid reputation as a spiritual authority. And then you pass away, you enter the afterlife, and you make a staggering discovery. Your central thesis, like your entire working concept of God, had a massive blind spot. How would you react to that? Would you double down, or would you try to set the record straight? Well, according to the source text we're analyzing today, Swedenborg's reaction was incredibly humble. The text actually quotes him directly, saying, "I am keenly aware that my concept of God was still very immature." I mean, wow, that is a shocking admission from such a towering historical figure in Christian mysticism. It absolutely sets the stage for a massive paradigm shift. He's not here to pat himself on the back, right? He's communicating specifically to reform and upgrade his own earthly worldview based on new, higher dimensional evidence he's seeing firsthand. Section 1. Redefining Creator, a Paradigm Shift. Okay, so to ground us in the source material, our focus is right here on Chapter 3, which is titled Christianity and I. This entire chapter is dedicated to him dismantling his earthly assumptions. It's right here that he takes the foundational pillars of traditional Christian dogma, stuff he himself used to firmly believe, and really starts to test them against the actual reality of the spiritual realms he's now fully experiencing. And this perfectly illustrates exactly where that theological pivot happens. So in his traditional earthly view, Swedenborg believed that the absolute creator, the ultimate source of everything, literally squeezed down into physical form here on earth. But his newly revealed spiritual view separates these concepts. He now states that the absolute creator is an immensely higher dimensional being. Any personalized God with human characteristics, that's actually secondary. The ultimate creator doesn't just take on a localized human body. Obviously, this is a massive update to his theology. Section 2. Truth about Jesus. Redefining the Messiah. So if the absolute creator is this higher dimensional being, where does that leave Jesus? Well, he redefines him with a pretty crucial distinction. The text explains that Jesus Christ is not the absolute creator in totality. Instead, Jesus was a physical incarnation of a portion of a higher dimensional God. He describes him as a soul incredibly close to the creator, sent out almost like a fractal or an extension, but not the entirety of the universe's ultimate architect walking around in sandals. It preserves the divinity of Jesus, for sure, but it radically expands the scale of the absolute God. Now, what's really fascinating here is the working relationship the text describes. Swedenborg doesn't just analyze Jesus from afar. He claims a deeply personal connection. The text outlines that Swedenborg actually supported Jesus from the spiritual realm. He acted as this unseen bridge, collaborating to help convey these massive spiritual teachings to humanity across different eras. They were, in a sense, spiritual co-workers trying to elevate human consciousness. Section 3. Past Life Reveal, a Surprising Identity. Okay, I want you to actively guess for a second. If a soul is continuously reincarnating to help elevate humanity's spiritual understanding, and this soul eventually becomes the absolute genius Emanuel Swedenborg in the 18th century, who was he before that? Like, who was he during the pivotal biblical times he wrote so much about? Well, the text explicitly unveils an astonishing historical identity. He explains that his soul has continuously worked as a bridge between the spiritual and physical worlds, taking on different roles in different eras. And during the time of Jesus, yeah, he was right there in the thick of it. Boom, there it is. The text claims directly John the Baptist, who is also a figure from my past life. Swedenborg states that his soul previously incarnated as the iconic prophet who paved the way for Jesus. No way, right? And it doesn't stop there. The text also astonishingly reveals he had another past life as the Japanese monk Genshin, demonstrating this incredibly vast, cross-cultural spiritual footprint. But bringing it back to this biblical connection, it completely recontextualizes everything we just talked about. When he said he worked with Jesus to elevate humanity, he meant it both from the spiritual realm and literally right there on the muddy banks of the Jordan River. So let's see how this builds on biblical history. You might remember the biblical prophecy that the ancient prophet Elijah would return before the Messiah. In the Bible, Jesus tells his followers that Elijah has already come, and it's largely understood he was speaking metaphorically about John the Baptist. Well, Swedenborg's text asserts that this wasn't just a poetic metaphor, it was spiritual reality. John the Baptist was a reincarnation meant to fulfill the role of Elijah, and that very same soul later became Swedenborg. It's an incredible, continuous thread of spiritual duty.
Section 4, a new mission, scientific spirituality.
So, the crucial point here is the text outlining his realization that his beloved Christianity, while beautiful in so many ways, had significant structural flaws. There were missing puzzle pieces that he feels an absolute, urgent duty to fix from the other side. He believes humanity is finally ready for a more advanced, complete picture. He methodically breaks down these blind spots. First, he notes that while traditional Christianity is beautifully sacrificial, it has a fundamentally sorrowful, painful, and lonely undercurrent. Because of this, it often feels incompatible with living a joyful earthly life. It kind of makes people feel like they have to reject the physical world to be spiritual, that exploring the spirit means turning your back on science and earthly progress. And most importantly, he says, it completely lacks a framework for empirical truth. It relies entirely on blind faith. And that brings us to the very purpose of this book. This entire text is his vehicle for correcting those historical blind spots. Remember, Swedenborg was a massive scientific figure, a mining engineer, an anatomist, an inventor, before he ever had a spiritual awakening. He doesn't want to discard science, he wants to synthesize it with spirituality. He outlines a very specific 3-step master plan for this mission. Step 1. Explicitly reveal the hidden spiritual truths that traditional dogma completely missed or misunderstood. Step 2. Inject a literal new wind of fresh thought into theology, clearing away those sorrowful anti-earthly cobwebs. And step 3, which is really his ultimate goal, to transform the afterlife from a spooky, mysterious realm into a place of empirical, scientific exploration. He wants us to study the spirit world as rigorously as we study physics or biology. I really want to emphasize this triumphant conclusion directly from the text. He declares, it is not a world obtained only by completely unknown faith, but a world that has become capable of exploration. He is basically demanding that we stop settling for blind belief. He's offering a framework where the spiritual world is as real, as structured, and as explorable as the physical universe. Which leaves us with this final, lingering question. If what this text proposes is true, if the afterlife is not just a matter of blind faith, but an actual structured realm of empirical exploration, how does that change the way you view your everyday existence right now? If spirituality and science aren't enemies, but just two sides of the same explorable reality, what will we discover next? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer for this incredible journey through Swedenborg's posthumous paradigm shift. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.